Welcome to Pizza and More. Have you had this idea also sometimes in the morning that you want to eat a fantastic pizza in the evening and you have no dough prepared? The dough for a pizza normally needs to raise 24 to 48 hours, as everybody know. We have only 8 hours left over, isn't it? Well, my name is Jürgen and I show you how it works. In these 8 hours we create now a fantastic dough. Well, the creation of the dough doesn't take that long. The raising time is 8 hours, the leavening time. And in the evening today, we bake together a fantastic pizza. During this video, I want to give you some theoretical information about flour, about some other things. I want to show you how the pizza sauce is created and so on. So lots of information in this video. And I would say we start now directly with the ingredients. We have here 500 grams of flour type 00, 310 grams of very cold water, 0.7 grams dry yeast, and 15 grams fine sea salt. With our ingredients we are in the range of the AVPN. The AVPN is the Associazione Verace Pizza Napoletana. This is an organization in Naples, and these guys have their target to, or they created a rule set, a policy, how a pizza napoletana should look like. They defined all the ingredients, they defined the way how the dough is made, they defined the oven, they defined everything around the pizza napoletana. And they said, in a dough for a pizza napoletana there are only four ingredients. The 4 ingredients I already showed you, which is the flour, which is the yeast, which is the salt, and which is the water. From my perspective, one additional ingredient is missing, and this is one of the most important ones, which is passion and which is fun in making a pizza. Without fun, without passion, you make it, but it will not be that delicious like it should be. Now back to the ingredients. The pizza flour. You need to know pizza flour is not equal pizza flour. There are so many different versions of pizza flour available. We have here type 00 with a protein of 12.5%. The protein is very important to have it at minimum 12% because the protein is required to create that gluten structure. And the stronger the gluten structure is, the more water the dough can keep, and all the air, all the gas which is produced during the leavening time, during the fermentation, will also be kept in the dough, which makes our dough afterwards fluffy and super delicious. The next factor we have which is absolutely important for a pizza flour, is the W value. The W value tells us how strong the gluten structure is and over which period of time the gluten structure stays before it gets weak again. Think if we would have now a pizza flour with a very high W value, around 350, 380 or so, then this is a flour which is possible, or with this flour it's possible to let the dough for 48 or 96 hours or so raise. And after this time the gluten structure gets lower and lower and lower. If we would use such a flour right now for an 8 hours pizza dough, when we eat in the evening the pizza, it would be a bit like a chewing gum. It's not that the nice feeling in your mouth while eating as with a proper pizza flour. And the pizza flour we use today has a W value of 260 or 270, which is absolutely in the right range, so that we have the right feeling when we eat tonight our pizza. And now I would say let's start with creating the dough. As first we take now the water, pour it into our machine. The next what we add is the flour and the yeast. We will add the salt later, let's say in around 5 minutes. it's not recommended to bring the salt and the yeast in a direct contact. If the yeast is in direct contact with the salt would damage the activity of the yeast, and this is nothing what we want. We want that our yeast is able to work, that our yeast makes a nice fermentation of the dough. So we add our salt simply a bit later. If you make your pizza in a normal kitchen oven, then you have to add now additional 5 grams of olive oil and 5 grams of honey. The olive oil is required in a kitchen oven to protect the dough from drying out. Because you need to know, in the kitchen oven a pizza takes around 5 to 8 minutes, and in a pizza oven it takes only 1 minute, 1.5 minutes. And during this long time in the kitchen oven the pizza would get dry, and that's the reason why we add some olive oil to protect the dough from drying out. And the honey or even sugar is used that the dough gets a nicer color. The crust is afterwards more colorful in the kitchen oven. In a pizza oven you don't need olive oil, you don't need honey. If you want, you can add olive oil as well, because it's a bit of taste. Some people like the taste of the olive oil, so it doesn't matter. You can add some olive oil, you also can add honey if you want, but it's not necessary. We start now kneading for around 5 minutes at the lowest speed. After 5 minutes we add our sea salt, and then we can also increase the speed of the kitchen machine. The total kneading time will be around 20 minutes. When we think the dough is ready kneaded, then we make the window test, and if this works then the dough is properly kneaded and we can take it out. After a kneading time of 20 minutes my dough seems to be ready. I measured the temperature with such a infrared thermometer. You can also use a thermometer which looks like this. With this one you can measure the temperature of the core of the dough, and with this one only the surface, but it doesn't matter, it's important, the temperature should not get over 25 degrees. So, make the window test, and to see if the dough is really ready, take out a ball of dough, create a ball in your hands. You can, if the dough is sticky, you can take some olive oil into your hands or some flour, and then you stretch the dough in your fingers or between your fingers, and if you can stretch it very thin so that it's almost possible to watch through it like a window, then the dough is properly kneaded and we can take it now out of the bowl. If the dough is now in front of you of the counter, we have to shape the dough to a nice ball and make a proper and a strong surface. For doing this, take your dough and do a so-called stretch and fold. Therefore, we take the dough, lift it, and then we fold it and we stretch it here a bit to make here a strong and a nice surface. And you see, the more often I do it, the nicer it is. And then we turn it, we pull it. It's important to pull it and not to roll it, so that the top always stays on top. And we do it again, turn it, we do it again, turn it, and again. And then, if the dough is nice and strong, it's possible to take some olive oil and cover the dough with olive oil. It's not required, but you can do it. And then we protect the dough from air, and otherwise the surface of the dough would get dried. And now we let the dough rest for around 30 minutes. After the 30 minutes we shape the dough balls, the so-called panetti, and then we let it rise for 8 hours. In the time between you can prepare your cheese, your mozzarella. If you have mozzarella which is in such a bag in salt water, you have to drain this mozzarella, which means you cut the mozzarella into sticks like French fries, and you put it into a sieve, and then you put it back into the fridge until you knead it, so for 5, 6, 7 hours or maybe a bit longer. Then all the water, all the liquid which is inside of this mozzarella cheese can drain out, and afterwards we do not have such a soggy pizza, because this is not that nice if the pizza is too soggy, and so we have a more dry cheese, and this is more fantastic. The dough had now time to rest for 30 minutes at room temperature, and now it's time to shape the dough balls, or the so-called panetti. Now we divide the dough ball. I use here a kitchen balance. For the normal Neapolitan pizza, the dough ball needs to have a weight of around 280 to 290 grams. It's easier to do it with the balance. You can also simply divide the dough by 3. This will also work, but it's easier if you use a balance. There are right now 3 different possibilities to shape the dough balls. The first one is you keep the side of the ball of the dough, what was during the leavening time, on top, directly on top, and then with your fingers you push all the rest of the dough underneath and here, so you push everything to the bottom, and then you can see how the surface and how the structure of the dough gets very, like a skin. It's really absolutely smooth. You can take these 2 fingers and also push with the others always the dough between your fingers, and then you have also the possibility to shape the ball. This was number 1. Number 2 is that you keep this upper side, but now to the bottom, and you stretch it and fold it back to the center. You stretch it and fold it back to the center. Stretch it, and this do around the circle. And then flip it around again, and you can see it's nice structured already. Then you can turn it several times, and then with your little fingers go under the dough and pull the dough. Don't roll it, simply pull it, and then you can see how it's structured, how strong it gets on top. And then this was the second way how to shape a dough ball. And the third is what we saw earlier already with the big ball, the so-called stretch and fold functionality or procedure. You take it, you put it back to the counter, and then you fold it, and then you stretch it here to the left and to the right. And then again the same from the other side. And you see this side stays always on top. And now we also have a nice structured dough ball. And then the same as we did with the dough ball before, we turn it and we pull it. We turn it and we pull it, and then we take it back into the box. In this dough ball box you see now these 3 dough balls. You will see after the leavening time the dough will not raise into the height, it will raise, or it will get flat. But this is total normal because there is enough space in this box. We could use even a smaller box, then this would not happen. We could separate the box or whatever, but it doesn't matter even if dough balls are flatter afterwards. It will taste exactly the same. It's not necessary to put here some olive oil on the bottom or to put semolina or flour onto the bottom. It's absolutely not necessary. You also can use smaller bowls where only one dough ball has space, and here you have to put some olive oil in, put the dough ball in, close the lid, and then when you will shape the pizza you only have to flip it around and then the dough balls falls out. It's now necessary to cover the dough, otherwise the dough would dry out. Our dough balls can rest at room temperature for around 8 hours. Hello and welcome back. If you like my video, it would be now time to press the like button. Thank you very much. Now to the tomato sauce. I'm personally a fan of San Marzano tomatoes, but of course you can use each other tomato as well. Use which tomato ever you like. What I can't recommend are the super cheap tomatoes from the discounter. Now let's come to the tomato sauce. There are tons of different versions of tomatoes available on the market. I'm a fan of San Marzano tomatoes. These are tomatoes from Italy, but you also can use each other tomato sort, whatever you want, whatever you like. It depends always on your taste. Now let's see how the tomatoes are made. I already put the tomatoes out of the can into this plate, and now I show you what we do with the tomatoes. You see, my San Marzano tomatoes are in pieces. So this is one whole tomato, and I destroy the tomato, or I tear the tomato now with my fingers. This is nice because afterwards we have such small tomato pieces in our tomato sauce, which I personally like, and we shouldn't destroy the seed in the tomatoes, because if we would use a mixer or something like this, the seed would be destroyed and we would have a kind of a bitter taste, which is also not that nice, isn't it? So, and we do this now for the whole tomato, for all tomatoes. And if you see, you have here some pieces of the tomato which are not that nice. It's easy to get them out. Now I'm ready with mashing the tomatoes. I already cleaned my fingers. And the only ingredient what we need right now for our pizza is 5 grams of sea salt. We mix this up and the tomato sauce is done. It's also possible to add here a few leaves of fresh basil, but the fresh basil is added to the pizza afterwards, and the same counts for olive oil. We also could add around about 5 grams of olive oil to our tomatoes, but also olive oil is put afterwards onto the pizza, so it's not really necessary. You can do it, but it's not necessary. In one can of tomatoes are around about 400 grams, which means the one can lasts for 4 pizza. Now everything is prepared that we are able to bake the pizza. Our dough had a leavening time of around about 8 hours. Our tomatoes are prepared, everything else is also prepared. The pizza oven is preheated to 450 degrees. The cheese is already prepared. I showed you this earlier, or I told you how you should do it earlier. I have here cheese which is fior di latte, and fior di latte is my favorite. The fior di latte melts very nice on the pizza. It's very creamy afterwards. Far better from my taste, from my perspective, far better than a normal mozzarella. Mozzarella di bufala, so from buffaloes, is also an absolutely great cheese with a bit more taste than fior di latte. But the cheese is really something of your own taste. You can use what cheese ever you want. It's up to you. You also could use any other kind of cheese. The only thing what I wouldn't recommend is if you buy already grated cheese, because if you buy the cheese which is already grated, there is lots of starch inside of the bag to protect the small pieces of the cheese to stick to each other, so to stick together. And this is really not a nice taste. So if you would have Gouda or whatever cheese on your pizza, please buy it in one piece and then grate it by yourself. So I'm absolutely happy how the dough balls look like, and it is not that, as I thought, that the dough gets so far into the empty space. It is absolutely okay. To take the dough out, we take some semolina and put it over the dough ball, which we want to take out, and there where the dough or the dough ball is attached to another dough ball. Then we take a spatula and release the dough from the sides and where the dough is attached to the other ball. Then we take some semolina again and we go under the dough ball and lift it out. And then we put it into our semolina. Now it's important to close the box again, because otherwise there is a risk that the dough gets dry in the meantime when we prepare our pizza. Now it's absolutely important that we don't stress the dough, so we have to be very gentle to our dough, which means we don't press it, we don't shape it or whatever, we are absolutely gently, we try not to touch the dough. We flip the dough 2 times around in the semolina, we take the semolina away, and then you see this dough ball is now not round. The first thing we want to create here now a round shape. We are here very gentle and bring the dough to a round shape. As next, we start from the center towards the crust with pressing, only with our fingertips. We start here pressing towards the crust and we let around 1.5 centimeters of crust free. Don't touch the crust, otherwise all the air gets out and we have not that crust what we want. Then we flip the dough ball over and do exactly the same from the other side. Then we flip it again and we repeat this step until the pizza has a proper size. The size of the pizza will now not be the final one, because the final size of the pizza will be then created when the pizza is on the peel. If you see or if you feel, oh, here is a piece of dough which is sticky, take some semolina, put it there. This stops the dough being sticky. Then you can press here and stretch a bit, but also gently. Don't press the crust, only here, and don't make a hole into the dough. What you also can do is take the dough over your hand and stretch it a bit to its shape, and then after you remove the semolina from the counter, bring the dough back to the counter. Then the first thing we add to the pizza now is tomato sauce. Don't add too much tomato sauce, because the tomato sauce is liquid and this liquid would weak up the dough, and then the chance that you demolish the dough or the pie afterwards is very big. From this time on, when you add tomatoes, you have to work quickly, because otherwise, as I said, the dough would weak up the dough and it's possible to make a hole. If someone bakes in the home oven, the pizza like it is now needs to go into the home oven and needs to be pre-baked, because the crust takes longer than the rest of the ingredients and we won't burn the ingredients, and that's the reason why we do a pre-baking. We remove the pizza out of the home oven as soon the crust gets nice colored, and then we put all the rest of the ingredients. But for now we have a pizza oven here. That's the reason why I add now the rest of the ingredients. The first what we add is some Parmesan cheese or Grana Padano. If you don't like Grana Padano or Parmesan cheese, then simply leave it away. The next is fresh basil. I know you will think now the basil will burn. Well, yes, it will not burn, it will get a bit colored, and this is exactly what the AVPN, so the Associazione Verace Pizza Napoletana, states in his rules. Add the basil so that the basil gets a bit a brown color, is a bit roasted, and this is exactly what we do now. If you don't like the roasted basil, leave it away and add it only afterwards. Now the mozzarella cheese. Don't use too much ingredients or too much toppings, because otherwise you have no taste anymore. That's really the case. I did it often. I was too hungry, I added too much different ingredients, and afterwards I was absolutely not anymore surprised because, or not happy because, I had no nice taste of my pizza. So less is more on a pizza. Then a little bit of olive oil, and now it's time to bring the pizza into the oven. We take our pizza peel, add some semolina, lift the dough and push the peel under. And now, as I said, it's time to bring the dough or the pizza to its final shape. My pizza peel has 33 centimeters, and the 33 centimeters are exactly the target I have. And also here, don't be too hard to your crust. Be gentle, stretch it very gently. And then if you see now some empty spaces where nothing is anymore, it doesn't matter. We can add afterwards more ingredients if we like. If you have big bubbles here, like this one, open it, otherwise the bubbles will burn in the oven. So we see here, we have here some empty spaces. We take some mozzarella again and add the mozzarella. Not too much, not too less. And then it's time for launching the pizza into the oven. You can see here inside of my kitchen I have an electro oven. For outside I have a gas oven. It's not recommended to use a fire, and that's the reason why I have an electro oven inside. I'm absolutely happy about this oven. If you want to need more, or if you want to have more information to this oven, please write it into the comments and I will answer all your questions. Now it's time to add the pizza into the oven. So, one shot and the pizza is out. The pizza is in, sorry. I use a different peel to remove the pizza. The reason is that if you would use the same peel and the peel gets warm when you remove the pizza out of the oven, then there is the possibility that the next pizza sticks on the peel, and then you have a big problem if it sticks. And now the pizza comes out of the oven. it looks and it smells absolutely fantastic. Let's cut the pizza. Oh, it's nice and crispy. And look here, can you see how nice the dough is? And this after only 8 hours leavening time. Fantastic. How is the bottom? Super well done. And now, hard to wait, but I don't have to wait anymore. I can cut the pizza now and I taste it to see how it tastes. I have here one piece. Wow, this cheese is fantastically melted. Let's take the first bite from the center. Oh, it's hot. Guys, this tastes amazing. The crust is, the bottom is crispy. I taste the fantastic tomatoes. I taste the nice cheese. And now I bite something from the crust to have only dough. Yeah guys, what should I say? It's a fantastic success, and this after only 8 hours. Wow, absolutely great. If you like this video, if you like my video, then I would be super happy if you would subscribe my channel, because I have lots of different other ideas for pizza and so on, because it's pizza and more, which I will make videos from in the next upcoming weeks. Thank you very much guys, and see you soon. Ciao.